Johnson & Johnson under fire and has to halt shots and arms production in Baltimore plants. Stay tuned. Now, in recent years, Johnson & Johnson had been sued, that's right, for placing in their talc products. That's right. Toxic asbestos. Listen to this. In 1994, Johnson & Johnson introduced baby powder made of crushed talc. The mineral can be found with asbestos in the earth. Raising concern, talc products are contaminated with toxic asbestos. In recent years, Johnson & Johnson lost multi-million-dollar lawsuits related to ovarian cancer caused by baby powder. Guess who has ovaries? Everybody get in the comments if you know who has ovaries. So it seems that Johnson & Johnson has been poisoning women and babies for decades. And let's be clear, Baltimore has had a very big problem with lead. Very big problem with lead. As a matter of fact, the children at the schools were unable to drink the fountain water, and the fountains have been covered with orange, hazardous, do not drink covers. Okay, so at the schools, you cannot drink the water. Okay, this is not new. And once again, Emergent is in Baltimore City. So I do detect that there will be more problems with that particular plant. And the biggest issue is that plant had been under investigation since 2020, September of 2020, okay? Now listen to this, baby powder asbestos controversy. Asbestos is heat resistant and versatile, while talcum powder is valued as a natural lubricant that absorbs moisture. What? For much of the 20th century, companies promoted asbestos and talc as harmless, naturally occurring wonder minerals. The asbestos industry manipulated medical research around its products and buried negative findings about asbestos and health as long as it could. And doesn't that sound like what's going on with the shots in arms? The corporate cover-up of asbestos cancer-causing effects lasted well into the 1970s. The talc industry played a role too by downplaying the danger of asbestos contamination in talc products. And we're still talking about Johnson & Johnson. So what we're saying is that Johnson & Johnson, knew. They knew Johnson & Johnson's history and connection to asbestos. Listen to this. In the late 1800s, doctors began to realize the importance of using sterilized medical equipment to prevent infection. Wow. Johnson & Johnson was founded to meet this need. In 1894, the company launched one of its most iconic products, Johnson & Johnson's baby powder made of crushed talc. So they've been doing this since the 1800s. Today, Johnson & Johnson is one of the largest healthcare companies in the world. In 2018, the company reported more than 81.6 billion, B with a billion, in worldwide sales. A year earlier, which would be 2017, Johnson & Johnson began to face lawsuits over asbestos exposure from contaminated talcum powder. In July 2019, the U.S. Justice Department launched a criminal investigation to determine if Johnson & Johnson purposefully misled the public about the asbestos fibers in its talcum powder. Thousands of lawsuits have coincided. Wow. For years, it's been well known that many sources of talc are naturally contaminated with asbestos. So you were rubbing your babies with poison. You were rubbing your vaginas and things of this nature and breathing these, because a lot of women I've seen, they would have all of this powder up around their necks and all around their breasts and things of this nature. And then, of course, they would have all types of issues, cancer. And asbestos causes mesothelioma, which is cancer, I think, of the lungs. The two minerals often, which is asbestos and talc, often occur in the same geological formations. Despite this, Johnson & Johnson did not focus on the issues of asbestos contamination in baby powder, which is one of its flagship consumer products. Asbestos-related diseases usually arise after years of regular exposure to the toxic mineral. You cannot destroy this mineral. There's nothing that you can do, and you definitely do not want to rub it on your private parts. Long-term exposure can occur with baby powder. Many people initially receive talcum powder as babies to prevent diaper rash. Now, has this powder ever prevented diaper rash? I never understood why people put this on their babies or use this. I never got into that craze of using powder. Like, I don't get it, but a lot of y'all did, and a lot of you anyway. So they use it to prevent diaper rash, and they continue using the product into adulthood. Who told you to use it to prevent diaper rash? So not only is it a caustic, toxic mineral that causes cancer and mesothelioma and other things, you used it on your reproductive areas where your children had to come from. So you also got ovarian cancer and things of this nature. Do you understand now? You poisoned your family. And anybody that's telling you to put shots in your arms from these people and things of this nature, I mean, Johnson & Johnson has been doing this, poisoning women and babies since the 1800s. And then you're going to allow people that's from the Black Power to tell you that people are for entertainment and shock value and doing certain things for entertainment and shock value. They're also telling you that you're having a problem with being addicted to Alex Jones, which I really doubt Alex Jones was born in the 1800s, but okay. And then they'll come back and say they fighting the power and they're trying to, resist white supremacy and oppression and things of this nature, but then come back and tell you to put this stuff in your arm. Okay. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be forever and a day. Spooky and pseudo. But as you can see who the spooky pseudo scientists really are and who is really promoting white supremacy's Agenda 21 and population control and things of this nature. You can see who's doing that. All right, anybody that's preaching to you and trying to mock you for being smarter than them. And listen, these people, they have the science. And the science is telling them that they're being poisoned and they're poisoning people. And they've done this since the late 1800s. 1894. More than 100 years. But you're going to allow people that are claiming to be Black Power to tell you that you're a pseudoscientist because you read? Because you read something? Now, as you can see, this didn't come from Alex Jones. This came from asbestos.com. This doesn't have nothing to do with Alex Jones. This doesn't have nothing to do with QAnon. This has something to do with you being smarter than these people that are just trying to hustle you. You can call me pseudo. You can call me spooky. You can call me anything. But the one thing that the state calls me is an applied scientist.
Well, I mean, if someone recently, within days, I would tell them to just, first of all, don't get an anxiety reaction because, remember, it's less than 1 in a million. However, having said that, pay attention. Do you have symptoms? Headache? Do you have shortness of breath? Chest discomfort? Do you have anything that resembles a neurological neurological syndrome, and obviously if you have something as serious as a seizure, I mean, that's pretty clear. But the manifestations of this are that headache is the very common component of it, because the sinus thromboses that they have is the draining of the blood in the brain, and it will cause enough symptomatology to make you notice it. Just tell people to just watch out for not feeling very well.
And one for Jeff. Officials from different states told us this morning that they were really caught off guard by this announcement.
Mix up at Emergent Biosolutions Baltimore plant ruined COVID vaccine doses. Plant not yet okayed to distribute shots. Okay, now this comes from out of Baltimore, Maryland. That's right, there's a plant in Baltimore. Did you know that is creating these shots in arms? Okay, and this is from March 31st, 2021. The Emergent Biosolutions manufacturing plant in East Baltimore, this is Baltimore City, Maryland, okay? Once again, that has been making coronavirus vaccine for months, has not yet received emergency use authorization from the federal government. Okay? This is only 10 days ago. A spokesperson confirmed Wednesday, and the delay is reportedly due to a potentially egregious human error. Now, of course, the error would be human, right? A mix-up of two vaccines ingredients several weeks ago ruined about 15 million doses, 15 million, all right, of Johnson & Johnson, okay? Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, and they're on the news again today, okay? Listen. And forced regulators to delay authorization of the plant's production lines. The New York Times reported Wednesday. Emergent's mistake does not affect Johnson & Johnson doses that are currently being delivered and used nationwide, the Times reported, but doesn't affect future shipments. Now, what does that mean? They really want you to take these things really bad, so what they'll do is they'll give you the bad news and then say, hey, everything's okay, everything's under control. Just continue to get those shots in arms, okay? But why did you ruin 15 million doses? What happened? And you force regulators to delay authorization of the plant's production lines. Now, let's see if they actually say what happened. Emergent, which contracted with Johnson & Johnson, as well as AstraZeneca, is an experienced vaccine maker. So they have a whole bunch of different subcontractors on top of contractors. So even if you were able to sue somebody, who would you sue? Because it seems that Emergent has been hired by Johnson & Johnson, but Johnson & Johnson received the contract from Trump, correct? Wow. Because once you hire a contractor, you can't tell them what to do or who to hire. Producing its own products such as smallpox vaccine kept in U.S. stockpiles. The company, based in Gaithersburg, which is in Montgomery County, which is also in Maryland, okay, has received millions in federal dollars to boost production of COVID-19 therapies and vaccines. Now, what therapies? See, this is so vague. I have questions, including at the East Baltimore factory near Johns Hopkins Bayview Medical Center. So this is on the east side of Baltimore City in Maryland. The company is awaiting emergency use authorization from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for the Bayview facility. said the spokesperson, Matt Hartwig, but did not know when it would be granted. Hartwig declined to comment on how many doses of vaccine had been stalled because of the lack of authorization. Now, if you had already created certain vaccines and things of this nature, and 15 million were destroyed, I guess, then what was the holdup on this particular batch? Or see, the thing about it is, I'm not even sure how to word it, because this, once again, is so vague. This article is very vague. So, yeah. So this is from out of Baltimore City, and Baltimore City is producing out of Emergent. Okay, Emergent Biosolutions Baltimore plant ruined COVID vaccine doses about 15 million, and also they have not received emergency use clearance. Okay, very, very interesting. They're saying this might affect the delivery. Listen, who is telling you to take these? If anybody is telling you to do this and put something in your arm and things of this nature, they don't care about you. Seriously, because these types of articles are all over the news and the press, and there's absolutely no specifics here. Okay, and this is coming out of Maryland and Baltimore City. Particularly, okay? So you didn't even know that Baltimore City was doing something like this. So we didn't know until something goes wrong. And then today, there's this. Take a look. Recently, a White House press, okay, was given. A presser was given by Dr. Fauci or whatever his name is, announcing that the Johnson & Johnson production, okay, of these shots and arms will be halted immediately. Now I want you to get in the comments and tell me who exactly Johnson & Johnson is targeting. Listen closely. This is Nikki Justice. Come on now.
Very well may go back to that, maybe with some conditions or maybe not. But we want to leave that up to the FDA and the CDC to investigate this carefully. So I don't think it was pulling the trigger too quickly.
And just a logistical question more so than anything. The Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is meeting tomorrow to discuss this. Why not try and meet today? I mean, is this not a moment to sort of drop everything and focus on this?
I think you have to get people pulled together. I think tomorrow is not such a long wait. I mean, I'm sure they want to get everybody. There may be people who are not available. They want to get the full component of it.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of both deciding for this pause and sort of what comes next? First off, did the White House have any advance notice of the issues with the J&J vaccine, and was there involvement from the White House in deciding this? And how do you evaluate when to pause vaccines? Are we going to see more of these pauses in the future if more issues pop up?
Why don't you do the first part, I'll do the second part. This decision was made by the CDC and the FDA, and that's one of the things that's, I think, such a good thing about our system here, is that we're...
The CDC is a non-profit organization. Why are they making decisions?
The CDC and the FDA. Consistent with following the science, we were notified last night.
Following the science. Clearly they don't have any science.
And therefore had no other involvement other than knowing last night that there would be an announcement this morning from the FDA and the CDC.
And in this review, what's going to happen? What are they looking for? What are they evaluating? When should we expect a conclusion?
Well, they want to see if there's any clues of other things going on. Were there any underlying... For example, if they're going to... Just hypothetical. If they're going to make a decision to go forward and say, we looked at this. If they find some common denominators among the women who were involved that might be synergizing and essentially enabling this type of an adverse event, they may know that for those who don't have that, it may be much safer. There may be clues when you go down and really get granular about every single case. In addition, they want to look at what some of the mechanisms are. The mechanisms may give some insight as as to what is going on.
And then should we expect to potentially see further pauses in the future? I mean, could this keep happening with the vaccines because they're so new?
Well, if you look at the history of take a look at what has gone on with the Moderna and the Pfizer, where you have, literally tens and tens and tens of millions. This watch this carefully. There have been no red flags. When you have a red flag of something that is as serious as thrombotic thrombocytopenia,
What?
particularly when you have an individual, one of whom died, you take that seriously. So I don't think that minimal things that very likely have nothing at all to do with the vaccine, that we're going to pull the trigger so quickly as to keep stopping and stopping and stopping. I think this is an unusual occurrence of a serious adverse event that you want to make sure before you go forward, you investigate it thoroughly. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're pausing so that they can look at it more carefully.